In a world where the rich were seen, heard, and respected, some people lived like they were invisible. One of them was Aaliyah. She worked quietly inside the huge Kane estate in Connecticut. She was not the type to draw attention. She came early, cleaned every room, and left without a sound. No one ever looked at her twice. But one spring morning, something small, something almost foolish, would change everything. It started in the south garden. Aaliyah was scrubbing the stone walkway on her knees, the same way she did every Thursday. She had already polished the glass railings inside the house, vacuumed the top floor, and dusted the places no one even looked at. The estate was worth millions, but inside it always felt heavy, almost sad. That sadness came from Noah, the 5-year-old son of the billionaire, Marcus. Noah had not spoken a word in over a year, not since the night his mother, Elena, collapsed at dinner and never woke up. Noah now spent his days sitting alone. His favorite spot was under the old cherry blossom tree in the garden. His small body curled in on itself, like he was trying to hide from the world. Most people in the house left him alone. The staff had been told not to disturb him. Let the therapists handle it, the house manager, Naomi, had warned. But Aaliyah couldn't ignore him completely. She understood silence. As she scrubbed the stones that morning, she glanced at the boy. He sat in the same spot, eyes on the dirt, hands folded between his knees. He looked so small, so distant. Her bucket was full of soapy water mixed with vinegar for cleaning the walkway. As she wrung out the mop, a thin layer of bubbles clung to her fingers. It made her remember something. When she was a little girl in Georgia, before life got hard, she used to blow bubbles in the backyard with her cousins. They'd mix soap and water in old cups, blowing until the air filled with floating colors. It was the only kind of magic she'd ever had as a child. She looked at Noah again. He hadn't moved. She wasn't supposed to talk to him, but she didn't need words. Quietly, she dipped her fingers into the soapy water, lifted her hand to her lips, and blew. A single bubble floated into the air, catching the sunlight. She didn't look directly at Noah, but she saw it from the corner of her eye. His head lifted. His eyes followed the bubble like it was something rare and fragile. When it popped, his small hand stayed in the air for a moment, as if reaching for it. Then he turned his face toward her. It was just a second. Their eyes met. Aaliyah gave the faintest nod, saying nothing. Noah didn't smile at first, but then, slowly, the corners of his mouth curved, just enough to see. It wasn't big, but it was real. Aaliyah's heart tightened. She dipped her fingers again and blew another bubble. This one floated higher. Noah leaned forward slightly, his eyes never leaving it. For a boy who hadn't spoken or reacted in over a year, that small change was everything. What Aaliyah didn't know was that someone was watching. Upstairs in his office, Marcus was sipping his coffee and reviewing business reports when something unusual appeared on the security camera feed. His son was outside. Not just sitting, watching, smiling. Marcus leaned forward, rewound the footage, and saw the maid, Aaliyah, blowing bubbles near Noah. He set down his coffee, his eyes fixed on the screen. He had spent thousands on experts, flown in the best therapists. None of them had made his son smile. And yet, here was a woman who scrubbed floors, somehow reaching him. Marcus didn't know whether to feel grateful or angry. Outside, Aaliyah stood carefully. She didn't move closer to Noah. She didn't speak. She just returned to mopping the stones. But every few minutes, she blew another bubble. and every single time, Noah watched. Inside, Marcus kept watching too. Something was happening, and he couldn't look away.
The next morning, Aaliyah didn't expect anything to be different. She arrived at the estate as usual, slipped in through the back kitchen door, tied her apron in the laundry room, and checked the cleaning list. But as she stepped outside to clean the south garden, she froze. Noah was already there, sitting under the same cherry blossom tree. His legs were crossed, and his eyes were fixed in her direction. He didn't wave, he didn't speak, he just waited. Aaliyah felt something shift inside her. She reminded herself not to hope too much. Moments like yesterday usually faded. But she walked toward her usual spot, set down her bucket, and dipped her fingers into the soapy water. She blew one bubble. Noah's eyes followed it instantly. Aaliyah didn't say a word. She blew another, then another. By the third bubble, Noah had moved a little closer, not much, just a small shuffle forward. Inside the house, Marcus was in his office again, and again his eyes wandered to the garden camera. There was his son, in the same spot as yesterday, watching the maid. Marcus leaned back in his chair, unsettled. He didn't know what to make of it. Every specialist he had hired said progress would take months, maybe years, and yet, this. For days it continued. Every morning, Noah would be in the garden, waiting. Every morning, Aaliyah would arrive at her usual time, work quietly, and blow bubbles when she thought no one was watching. But someone was always watching. Marcus started paying attention more. He even began showing up early to the office just to keep the garden camera on. He noticed small changes in his son. Noah sat up straighter now. His eyes wandered more. Sometimes he even giggled softly when a bubble floated in a strange direction. Marcus hadn't heard that sound in over a year. But he also noticed something else. Noah wasn't reacting this way with anyone else. Not the therapists, not the staff, only Aaliyah. That fact both amazed and frustrated him. One afternoon, Marcus walked to the garden himself. He stood at a distance, not wanting to interrupt. He saw Noah sitting cross-legged on the stone floor. Aaliyah sat a few feet away, her bucket beside her. She wasn't trying to teach him anything. She wasn't asking questions or demanding responses. She just blew a bubble every so often and let him follow it with his eyes. The silence between them wasn't uncomfortable. It was calm, safe. Marcus didn't know how to enter that space, so he didn't. He quietly stepped back inside. But not everyone in the house was as quiet as Marcus. Naomi, the house manager, began to notice. The other staff began to whisper. "Have you seen the boy in the garden?" the gardener asked one morning. "He smiles when she's around," the cook said. Even the security guard commented. "The kid doesn't throw tantrums anymore when she's here." Aaliyah ignored the whispers. She wasn't doing this for attention. One afternoon, while she was mopping the stones, Noah did something new. He reached for the bucket. Aaliyah froze, letting him take his time. Noah dipped his small fingers into the water, then pulled them out, watching the bubbles slide down his skin. He didn't look at her. He didn't speak. But Aaliyah understood. It was his way of saying, "I remember. I want this." Inside, Marcus saw the moment from the camera feed. He felt something heavy in his chest, something he didn't know how to name. He turned off the feed. For the first time, he didn't want to watch from a distance. He wanted to be there, but he didn't know how. That evening, Marcus sat outside Noah's bedroom door. He didn't knock. He just sat, listening. Inside, he heard nothing, but that was okay. Sometimes, silence wasn't empty.
The next week, everything changed. It didn't happen because of Noah. It didn't happen because of Aaliyah.
It happened because of the people outside the garden. Marcus had been getting calls, board members, lawyers, even some close friends. They all said the same thing. You're letting a maid handle your son? That's risky. She's not a therapist. What will the press say if they find out? At first, Marcus ignored them, but the voices didn't stop. The pressure grew. One evening, after a long day, Marcus called Aaliyah to his office. She walked in quietly, wiping her hands on her apron. Marcus didn't look her in the eyes. "This isn't easy," he said. "But I think it's best if you take some time off. Just for a while." Aaliyah didn't argue. She didn't cry. She just nodded slowly. "I understand," she said softly. She turned to leave, her steps calm. But inside, the quiet was heavy. That night, Noah noticed. When dinner came, he didn't eat. When Marcus checked on him, he found the boy sitting on his bed, holding a blue crayon. Marcus sat down beside him. "She just needed a few days off," he said gently. "She'll be back soon." But his words felt empty, even to himself. The next morning, Noah didn't go to the garden. He stayed in his room. He didn't smile. He didn't draw. Marcus felt the silence spreading again. By the third day, Marcus knew he had made a mistake. He drove across town to a small apartment building. He stood outside one door, hesitating. Finally, he knocked. Aaliyah opened the door. She looked surprised, but calm. Marcus cleared his throat. "Please come back," he said quietly. "He asked for you." Aaliyah studied his face for a moment, then nodded once. She didn't say much. She didn't need to. The next morning, she walked back into the cane estate. Noah was in the garden, sitting under the cherry blossom tree. When he saw her, he didn't run or shout. He just walked over and wrapped his small arms around her. Aaliyah knelt down and hugged him. "I missed you," she whispered. That afternoon, there were no bubbles, no games, just quiet. The kind of quiet that feels safe. Weeks passed. Noah began to change in small ways. He stayed in the garden longer. He drew more. And one sunny afternoon, something happened. Aaliyah dipped the wand in the soap water, blew a bubble, and it floated up. Noah's eyes followed it. His lips parted. And then, in a soft whisper, he spoke his first word in over a year. "Sky." Aaliyah froze for a moment, but she didn't make a scene. She just smiled and said gently, "It's okay." Marcus, who had been standing in the doorway, heard it too. His chest tightened. He didn't rush forward. He didn't speak. He just let the moment belong to Noah. From that day on, things were different. Noah began saying more words, little by little, and Marcus began to understand that what Noah needed was not control, not schedules, not expensive programs. He needed someone who could just be there. Aaliyah stayed, not as just the maid, not as just an employee. She became part of the home. And on one quiet afternoon, as Noah sat between Marcus and Aaliyah, drawing stick figures, he wrote one word under the picture: home. Marcus looked at the drawing. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. Because he finally understood. It wasn't the mansion that made it a home. It was the people in it.
If you were touched by this story, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and join us in sharing good stories that matter. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next story.